Hey guys, this is Ben of the Future speaking. Just a quick heads up before the podcast begins. I recorded this with the exact same mic on a different computer in a different room of my house, and so as a result the audio quality is a little bit different. It's a little more kind of hollow and less rich and deep than it normally is. You're still able to understand everything. Everything's still just as good as the normal regular podcast, but for those of you wondering, that's why there's a little bit of a difference in audio quality. That said, I don't think it's that big a deal, and you get used to it after a few seconds. So just a heads up, enjoy the podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series podcast. This will be the last BioCup Bionicle Inspiration Series podcast because, well, the BioCup's come to a close, and what a fantastic competition it was. So in this episode, we're going to be having a little bit of a chat about some of our favorite entries. I'm going to show you my 3 favorites of the competition, and my guest is also going to show you his favorite 3 of the competition, and then we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about the contest as a whole. Maybe even have a chat about what's to come next year. I don't know. That just came into my head. Maybe we will. We'll figure that out. Anyway, let me introduce you to my guest, who is a repeat offender, but more than happy to have him on again. It is Mr. CZQ, Mr. Mitch Henry. How you doing?
Good. Repeat offender.
Repeat offender. That's right. That's right. Third time's a charm. It's going to be the best podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, BioCup's done. That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
I woke up this morning to the news of Mr. Rock Monster 2000 had won. That's exciting. That's really cool. I mean, he's been... Actually, him and pretty much everyone in the final round have been really seriously making incredible stuff each time. Like, they've delivered every time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was kind of fun seeing how Rock Monster he was like the number 1 spot in the preliminary round, and now he's taken the first spot in the whole contest. So he's kind of like held that quality, that standard quality, the whole contest.
That's so awesome. Yeah. It's cool how, it's cool too, some of the people that kind of snuck up too. Like, I mean, I've loved some of Jaffa's stuff from the start, but he kind of snuck up on me a bit. Like, all of a sudden, when he was sort of getting into later and later rounds, like, he just kept getting better and better, and suddenly it was like, oh, right, like, man, Jaffa's like, whoa. And then he's there in the final round. Like, yeah, it was really cool. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of funny. Jaffa, for a couple weeks, held the number 1 spot in the preliminary round with the mock that Rock Monster ended up remaking for the victory. So I thought that was kind of cute.
Nice. Well, do we want to start having a bit of a chat about the mocks? Or do you want to talk a little more about BioCup?
I guess we could just start with the mocks.
All right, I'll start with the Jaffa mock because that seems appropriate because we're kind of just talking about Jaffa. Yeah, so this was one of my top 3. I don't really have an order for my top 3. Maybe this is number 2. I don't know why I'd be starting there, but there you go. I really like this. This one is of course by Jaffa and is called Cybertooth. So one of the reasons I picked this as one of my top 3, I mean, overall, just kind of the whole shape of it is really, really sweet. It looks super like animalistic. It looks awesome. Little details like those like antenna things and stuff, and then little yellow highlights. Like, it looks so awesome. Like you said, it was inspired by Avatar. I totally see that. That's so cool. The thing that I love is the freaking power move that Jaffa did of putting the dead head of Rock Monster's entry on the side there. Man, that is a jab. That is awesome. I love the banter. Fantastic.
Yeah, I like it too. It's a nice little sort of, like you said, it's a nice little jab, but it also kind of like continues the story that Rock Monster is sort of set up, in a way. It's like now you're seeing what one part of the world, and now you're kind of seeing a continuation of it. You're seeing it's a little more fleshed out with what Jaffa's built. Yes,
I really like that. Like, because he could have easily just built the sort of, what's it called, the Cybertooth guy, tiger, but adding the little details, like the little system dioramery vignettes on the sides there. I think that's so cool. Like you said, can make a kind of consistent story throughout it. And actually, that's kind of cool. Like, I spoke in the last podcast about like when the Plague Mech contest was happening, how people were kind of all rallying behind one sort of consistent idea and concept of a mock. And then slowly, as they were, making more and more of them and more people entering the contest, like, it was cool to just sort of see everyone doing the same thing, and kind of there was a nice sense of community in that. And I think that's cool with this as well. And it's kind of a unique concept that would be cool to see more people in the community do, of kind of building one concept under a sort of specific theme or idea or concept or whatever, and then someone else builds another one where they continue across, little elements from the builds, and so yeah, like that, you get a kind of consistent story throughout it. That'd be really cool to see, actually.
Yeah, these two mocks have a really nice visual language, really nice aesthetic to them. I'd like to see more built in this sort of hybrid of technology and nature. It's always an interesting topic, and it's very Bionicle, so it's always fun to see it.
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I like that a lot in terms of because often in the coverage I've spoken about, what a really, unique take on the theme, or that's a great way to kind of go with it. I think that this also contributes to one of the reasons why this is one of my favorites of the whole Bio Cup, is that it is such a unique take on that theme because, yeah, like we were saying, they're able to keep those visual elements going. Like some of the other entries into the finals, which I'll talk about when I post the last episode of BioCup coverage. Some of those, like, it was cool because it was just a reimagining of the mock. But Jaffa kind of took that and then sort of put it on its head in a very different way to the other guys. And that, for me, is why this stood out and why I really liked it. That said, though, did really like Rock Monster's entry. I'm not saying he didn't deserve to win. Probably my favorite of those three was definitely Jaffa's. So there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. They were all really interesting. This one was like, of all of them, this one really like jumps out at you the most with its like presentation and its sleek design and its style and its colors. But there was something about Rock Monsters that you could kind of look over it at a glance, but the more you looked at it, the more of the like execution you saw. Like if you look at the leaves on the mask, you'll see it's been layered so that there's like a darker green in the forefront, in the front of the mask, and a lighter green in the back. When I first saw that, I thought that he somehow had parts that were printed with both colors. I didn't realize he had used two separate pieces per leaf. So, what I'm saying is I voted for Rock Monsters, and little details like that are kind of what led me to the decision. But this was Jaffa's is very, very strong. It's got a wonderful shape all around, especially in its back and in its head.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I'm looking at not Jaffa's entry, Rock Monster's entry now. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I'll give you that. I'll give him that. Yeah. How was the judging for the final round? Was it quite sort of straightforward, or was there a lot of sort of debate about what people liked more?
Actually, it was. I think it was pretty straightforward. Most of us, we were able to decide pretty quickly who we wanted in what spot. So I don't know if we'll release the exact breakdown before this podcast goes out, but what we ended up doing was, instead of just straight voting, we wanted to avoid ties. So we had a little spreadsheet that said that like had our picks for first place, our pick for second, our pick for third. First place, everyone voted Rock Monster. Second place, everyone but one voted Jaffa, and third place, everyone voted Sparky except for one.
Ah, cool. Okay, man. Okay, interesting. I guess that is kind of close then. That's cool.
Yeah. It was pretty much a unanimous decision. It was not what I expected. I expected a little more. I expected that to go on a little longer, but I suppose not.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What's next with the Bio Cup then? I mean, obviously we're done now, but like, obviously everyone's going to get their prizes and stuff, and I look forward to seeing Rock Monster rubbing in that he has the art book. I guess that is it, isn't it? There's no after party. There's no planning for 2019 now, or.
This is the after party. I'm gonna leave BioCup 2019 to 2019. I think
Sounds like a plan.
it's fun, but it takes a lot.
Yes, yeah, I can understand that for sure. Quickly going back to the mock, I like how simplistic the legs are. They're just straight up TCBS stuff, but I don't think that's an issue. Like I was having a conversation with someone the other day about perfectionism, and I was thinking of doing a video about it as well. But the concept of perfectionism, like I will say this, and some people will be like, "What the heck?" Perfectionism is not a good thing. People can get kind of caught up in it. I do all the time. It's that thing of like you're making a mock or you're making art or whatever, and you want it to be perfect. And people say all the time, like, "Oh, nobody's perfect." Well, why should your art be perfect if nothing in the world can be perfect? And so it's that thing of not getting too caught up in this has to be amazing, this has to be perfect. because that in itself can kind of cause like creative blocks because you're never happy with it. There is a point where you kind of have to settle, not settle in terms of like this is awful, but I'll just live with it. It's like get it to a point where you're happy with, but don't get obsessed with like perfecting it. And I think this is kind of a nice example of that where the legs really didn't need to be anything super custom and super amazing. It worked totally fine for them to just be sort of more simplistic CCBS, limbs and armor. Because texture-wise, that flows so nicely with everything. The color blocking actually works very nicely with that too, and it just fits in with everything.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's great. Like you were saying with the colors, it's exactly how it should be with the white going right into the black, and the claws are like a gunmetal. It all flows nice. Like you said, the texture is really nice. It keeps going with that smooth that the rest of it has. This is a
100%.
really solid mock. The simplicity of it all really is what. Let me start over. The simplicity of the limbs flow nicely with the simplicity of the torso.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. One thing I love so much about it too is just all the tubes throughout it, like how that kind of transitions into the tail, how that's there on the waist and then goes into the head and stuff. But inherently, like I've said this before, where tubes like scare the crap out of me because it's like, yeah, I'll put tubes in my mock, and then when you try to, sometimes they can be so cumbersome and they go on everywhere, and it just can be a pain to kind of work with sometimes. But here, actually, they look like they look so well integrated into the mock and they flow nicely, but inherently, it doesn't look like they would have been too difficult to place. And I think that's kind of a cool reminder, at least for me, when I kind of struggle with tubes. It's like, no, you can kind of put them on as not so much an afterthought. Like I don't think they were an afterthought on this mock, but like you don't need to complexly, slide them through something and have them there at the start and wrap them around all sorts of other pieces and stuff. Yeah, it's cool, and it's awesome how much that improves this aesthetic, this sort of yeah, like cyber future animal kind of past. Like it looks really organic, but also looks really cybernetic. It's cool how that little detail like that can add so much to it.
I also kind of like that the way it flows through the body. It kind of keeps your eye moving across the whole Saber-tooth tiger itself.
Yeah.
Like you start at its head because those eyes really grab you, and then you can follow its torso down with the tubes, and it leads you into it, and then that leads you down into the head, and the sort of antenna on the back of its head kind of help with that too. You get since they're going up, but they're also going back. Your eye's already going back, but the tube is also going down, which contrasts the upward angle of the antenna. So you kind of have it keeps your eye moving around the whole frame.
It is that is awesome actually. Yeah, it's awesome how Jaffa's actually focused on the sort of visual composition of the mock and I mean like I'm kind of studying a lot of that at the moment of like how like with an illustration or something like it has to kind of have a narrative. It has to kind of you have to lead your eye through the image or something. And yeah, this mock entirely does that. And it's quite like you said, it's really simple how he's done that. Just having something that really pops with the color, with the eyes, and then the lines and stuff like that. That's cool. It's always something to think about with a mock too, and especially too with how it's photographed as well, because those lines are also leading you towards the head here, which again is a jab at the competition. Fantastic. That makes me so happy.
You really hung up on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's such a power play. What a great idea! Because it's the whole theme is about building something better than the opponent, and so it's like, well, I'll rip your head off and show you how much better I am. Genius. I love it. Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. Anything else on that? Like, I'm I really love this, but
I don't think so. I mean, just I guess the last thing is I really love the head. I love the dino tails for those saber teeth. That's a nice. I like the round shape of that. It's funny because it's made up of a lot of circles. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's a unique design. We kind of haven't really. I don't know. I can't say I've seen a sort of tooth design like that on a mock before. I've seen it in like movies or whatever, but it's cool to see that kind of translated in Lego. It looks awesome. But what were you saying about circles? Where are the circles? What do you mean?
Oh, so I think it's kind of interesting that a lot of it's made up with circles, like the head, of the eyes, and the more rounded shapes of its skull and the teeth, and like even a bit on its legs and or arms and legs and its back. There's a lot of rounded shapes, and when you look at like a language of character design, round is typically soft and almost cute. So it's kind of weird to see something that's using so many round shapes and soft angles, and yet it still looks fearsome, which I think is an interesting contrast.
That is cool, and I think as well, because I said this with the episode where I covered the rock monster entry that this is parroting. That there was kind of a beautiful contrast with that entry. What was that called? Do you remember what that was called? The what rock monster made?
Harbinger of the Hunt?
That's the one. Thank you very much. Yeah, there was a beautiful contrast with that of it being kind of smoother, but also quite rough in terms of the textures. So it was sort of almost the sort of more sleek modern textures on it were very much symbolizing the future, and then some of the more rough parts, like the skull aspect of the head and the kind of tusks and stuff, those more sort of seemed like rugged in the past. And so it's cool how that's kind of been continued on this in a sense. So like, yeah, the smoother textures and everything like that is future, and then you see some of these more mechanical stuff that's also kind of future. But even the smoother stuff as well looked very animalistic as well, which kind of doesn't seem as futuristic. And so yeah, there is interesting texture play there. But yeah, like you said too, there's also interesting contrast between like the smoother, rounder shapes on it, and then you see these sort of like harsh textures on these tubes, and then everything seems more kind of like evil and menacing, and then you got all these like repeated lines on the back there for like spikes and stuff on the back, and so again he's taking that original concept of the sort of contrasting textures and everything, and kind of adding more onto that, and it's cool because it makes this mock even more intimidating because of that, because you're like, nah, he's kind of cute, like I could go up and pet his face. I bit my hand off, like I think that's again really clever and why I like this so much.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on here. Last thing I want to talk about is these little like spines on its back. Such a minor little detail, and yet I really love the shape of that. And I don't even know what they are, but I just like them.
Yeah. I also love the little tiny like yellow highlight there. It's very similar to like the pink popping on the head. Like it's just a beautiful accent color that actually adds so much to it. And I could honestly imagine like if that yellow wasn't on the mock, this mock would really be lacking something. It's cool how much that does. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, fantastic work, Jaffa. Love your stuff. This is definitely my top three. But I reckon what we should do now, we're going to transition into one of Mitch's top three and talk about that, and then we'll go back and forth. Yeah. So which one do you want to talk about from your top three, good sir?
All right. Well, you mentioned how that had all those tubes going through it, so I want to move into something that's also kind of built with tubes and a little more organic. This one is by Red, and it was built for the Fusion theme, which I think was round one, and it's titled Wandering Soul, the Eternal. So this mock, like I said, was built for the round where you had to fuse Bionicle with another original Lego theme. Only Red had a bit of a twist on his Red's sub theme was different. It was Black Fantasy, and you talked a bit about Black Fantasy before. You featured Brendan's recent Black Fantasy mock.
Yes.
But for anyone who might not have seen that, I don't know a ton about it, but my understanding of it is that Black Fantasy is a theme that's based on building organic shapes and usually like kind of Lovecraftian horror creatures, and using pretty much a two-color scheme of black and translucent neon orange.
Yes.
So I don't know when this theme was created, but I thought this would be kind of a fun little twist to throw on the round fusion theme, and it produced one of my favorite mocks of the whole contest.
My understanding of Black Fantasy was because I'd always see it kind of like mid 2000s, like 2005 to maybe like 2008. Like a lot of the AFOLs really heavily focused on Black Fantasy for whatever reason. I don't really know why. But yeah, it was always such a cool theme, and I guess it was their way of playing with because a lot of them would use like they'd get tire pieces and like invert them so that they have that really smooth, interesting like organic texture to them. Um, and yeah, they'd have that color scheme that you mentioned and everything. And then a lot of mocks that they would appear in would be this really funky, like dystopian horror kind of fantasy vibe. Yeah, they'd be really, really freaky but awesome. And yeah, it is. It's such a like because like you said, like theme fusion as a whole, like obviously a lot of it's the specific Lego themes, but I feel like in terms of like AFOL themes that Lego hasn't done, but it's almost quite quintessentially an AFOL thing. Black Fantasy is definitely one of those. It's kind of like how Neoclassic Space is very much an AFOL theme that occasionally you see creep into Lego sets, but I mean, I guess that's an expansion of actual Lego sets, so maybe that doesn't quite count. But there's 100% like AFOL themes that that are quite constant throughout the community. And so I think it was a great addition to put that in there, and really cool to see such a well built entry for this. But that's enough of me. What do you like about it?
Um, everything? Does that count?
That's it. Next knock. Good.
Oh yeah. Well, that was quick. All right, next one. No, no, we'll stay on this one. I guess first and foremost is just the shape of it. I mean, it just has such a distinct silhouette. You can't quite mistake it for anything else.
Yeah.
With that incredibly long, flowing tail in the back, the sort of mohawk-looking thing it has going on, those like tentacles just dripping off the sides of it, and that spiked like probe tentacle thing that it has for a mouth, and that's just the eyes that are just of varying sizes and not quite randomly placed, but they're not even enough to like know quite what they are or why they're there. It almost looks like they could just kind of flow around the thing's body at will, but I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I really like how he's built this mohawk looking thing with the Knight's Kingdom shin armor pieces.
I've because ages ago I bought like a mask lot on eBay because it had like a rare mask in it. And they gave me like 20 Liwa, not Liwa, Matatu, the green Toametri guy. That had like 20 of those masks.
Mata.
Thank you. And like I was kind of doing similar stuff to that of just kind of placing them all like on top of each other, and then you kind of got this really cool shape as they kind of like flowed out of each other like that. And there was a couple other masks where I got a lot of the same one, and I was kind of doing that with that. I was like, that'd be really interesting to put on a mock. I haven't done that since, but it's amazing how doing that, like getting one part and repeating it like that, can actually create this really awesome texture and shape and everything. And so it's really cool to see that on a mock like this. Because yeah, like a lot of what you were saying about like the tails and tentacles and everything on this mock, it is this really weird, beautiful, like flowing, kind of almost oozing aesthetic that looks so like alien and creepy. And then so adding that into it too really plays into that. Really nicely done.
Yeah, it's very clever. It's weird because it's like it's such an unusual looking thing, but when I first saw it, it struck me as very familiar, and I couldn't figure out why for the longest time. And then I realized that it reminds me a lot of something from a game that I've played, Metroid Prime 2. And if there's anyone who's played that, they'd be familiar with the main villains of the game. They're called the Ing, I-N-G. I'm going to send you a photo, Ben.
Thank you.
They're kind of like this. Well, they kind of look like what Red has built, just very like dripping and like solid black, oozing, spidery creatures that have this singular orange eye, and they're gigantic, and they like turn into ooze and crawl all over the place, and they're very unnerving to look at, and this thing reminds me so much of them.
Yeah, it's funny you say that actually, because looking at them myself, I was actually thinking this looks oddly familiar, but I don't know why. So I was so looking forward to when you said that. I was like, well, I can't wait to figure out why. But I've not played that game. But even to me, it had that kind of weird familiarity to it. I don't know what it is, but that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's almost H.R. Giger looking, but not quite. I think it would be a little more H.R. Giger if it were humanoid, but that it's the guy who created the alien.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Yes.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was more of a household name.
No, I look, that could just be me, not my own ignorance. I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no, this is incredible. Instead of talking about what it looks like, let's just talk about it. I like that he's used the like the large chest mold, like the really really large one that I think Master Onua has. He's used that on the side of the body to give it like a large part of the length of the head of the body, torso, whatever it has. Looks nice. It flows well with the Knight's Kingdom shins. It flows well into the tail. And I also really love this spiked tentacle it has right in the front of its head. I recognize those spiked pieces, but I don't remember what theme or what theme created those. I can't remember.
They came in Atlantis sets. Some of the like not alien, like underwater sea creatures had some of those.
Okay. I'll
get you a link to it, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I was out of Lego for a little while, but I remember Atlantis.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to talk about this mock just because it's so like clean and there's there's really not a lot going on as far as like, I don't know. I don't know how
No,
to
I know what
explain
you
this
mean.
one.
I know what you mean. Yeah, like reminds me of the podcast I just did with Primus. We were talking about one of the what was it called? It was this for the semi-final. Someone did gosh, I'm so sorry, I forgot the name, but it's the guy like it was like a Toa dude riding a horse. It was very well built.
Oh yeah, that's by Sergey.
There you go. There you go. And was so both of us were quite speechless about it. We know conceptually why it looks cool. We just kind of couldn't put it into words, and I agree with you on this. It's very much like that. But I guess doing my best to articulate it. What you were saying about using the Onawa Master like chest piece there. I don't know. That's so cool how you can kind of use such a large piece like that to kind of cover so much surface area, and then kind of like I don't know if he started with that or not, but you know, kind of using that as a starting point possibly, and then kind of going off of that. Because I mean, that forms sort of most of the basic shape of the body, so I imagine it would be a good sort of starting off point that you can kind of trail tentacles and tails and eyes and things off of. So I think that's kind of why that's so cool is that it's able to kind of act as a yeah, I guess a jumping on point. I don't know, but it is cool. It is cool how well integrated it is. Like it looks so a part of everything. It doesn't look kind of I didn't mean for this pun, but it worked. It doesn't look too alien on the mock. Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you about the little spiked tail there. That I'm still trying to find the picture for. Because it kind of almost the fact that it kind of stands out a bit more. It kind of looks a bit like a jellyfish in terms of how like some of their tentacles are a bit larger than others. But it also looks cool because it's kind of closer to the mouth. It almost looks like is it a proboscis on like a butterfly or something like their little like antenna thing on their mouth.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's just a nice detail, like, especially with like the placement of it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I also moving on to the tail a little bit. I really like that. Well, most of this is kind of rigid, harder plastic. I like that there's these tires in the tail that give it kind of a spongy, squishy feel look to it. Kind of helps give across the idea that it's organic and soft, as I would expect a creature like this would be.
Yes. But yes, I agree with you about the tail there. Especially too how it kind of transitions into from sort of like larger to smaller there. I don't know. It's just nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very very well designed mock. I love the just how many tentacles he's put onto this. You'd think that with so many there'd be a lot of visual noise, there'd be a lot of clutter, but I think that helps the kind of idea he's trying to put across. This sinister, fleshy, organic black monster. I think it
Yes.
really works.
Definitely, I agree with you. Two things I noticed. One, I love sort of these. They're not quite on the back, but the tentacles on the front that are sort of furthest from the front. There's one. The sort of two of them kind of get a bit longer. How he's added like one of those tail pieces there, but then he's added that like sort of squishy chima like large claw piece on the back there. I love that. It looks like the tip of like a squid tail or a squid like tentacle thing or something. It's just so kind of yeah, I don't know, organic and natural. Like it reminds me of our world, and then that kind of helps make it look creepier because you can kind of relate it to like an octopus or a squid or something, and that kind of creeps me out more, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, no, I would never want to see this thing and what I imagine the scale it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh god. Now I'm scared. Yeah. One thing I noticed on the tail is is that a Znap wheel? Kind of. It's sort of in the middle of the tail almost. Like one of the kind of tirey pieces there sort of has a different texture to it. Is that Znap?
I think I know which one you're talking about. It's near the end. It's a little rounder than the other pieces. I don't recognize that piece actually. I don't know that much about Snap.
Because I swear I had one of those as a kid, and then I'm like, where did I have that? And I go, oh, it might have been Znap.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that's Snap. I think that's just Technic. I think I know what piece that is. I don't know what the number or the name is, so I couldn't find it for you, but I don't think that's
I
Snap.
just googled Znap. I did it through Bing. Hate Bing, but there it is on a Znap set. So I think it is. It kind of looks similar to it.
Oh, you might be right. That looks like it.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. What piece did you think it was though?
I have no idea what the name or the number of it is, but I thought it was one of the newer tire or wheel pieces.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sure. 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 Well, I'm sure some of those are probably. I don't know. Maybe they're in there or not. I don't know. I like your thinking.
Yeah. No, that's very clever. I didn't notice. I had no idea this used any Znap. I like seeing Znap. It's kind of a fun theme to mess around with if you have the parts.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly that. No, that's really cool. This is a fantastic mock. I'm with you now. I'm speechless. I don't know what else to say. It's just so cool.
The way he's used the orange on this, I really like how at a glance it might seem random, but it's very focused on the front of the head from the body. So even though they're kind of placed randomly, you still get the idea that maybe they're like eyes or like something, some kind of light shining from the inside of it that's breaking through or something like that. But he hasn't slapped them randomly all over the mock. There's still a very intentional design with the trans orange, and I think that really helps give it some life.
Exactly that. Yeah, there's still kind of, this isn't really the right word, but there's still kind of like a pattern to them in a sense, even though they do look kind of random. Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's everything I got for this mock. It's fantastic. It's one of my favorites from the whole competition.
Yeah, yeah. No, great work. Great work. Fantastic stuff. Let's move on to why don't we talk about one of my favorite mocks in the comp. It is by Mr. Balloon Nom Nom. And it's called, oh man, why did I say this? Now I have to pronounce the hard to pronounce name. Fumukwa. I was so hoping you were going to say how to say it. Fumukwa, the Wave Striker. Yes.
Yeah, this one's interesting. It's very cute. I don't know how to start. Well, this is your pick. Why don't you start?
I will start. I, funnily enough, like because I was going through just before we started the podcast, and I was like, okay, what are my top three? And the last mock that I picked and the mock that I'm yet to talk about, those were quite clear, obvious favorites. And then my third favorite was a little bit harder to pick. I had maybe kind of like 5 or 6 to narrow it down to. And it was between this and the Cyber Striker entry that I think King Marshy did, which I really, really liked that. But so that's probably like a close fourth. The reason I didn't pick that is just because I talked about it in length in an actual episode, so I picked this one instead. But this one was definitely up there. I don't know. One of the reasons I like it so much is it's got a lot of character to it. It's taken some of the stuff I discussed in the Elements episodes that I did, where he's taken concepts about water and really sort of fleshed them out and explored them. You know, like he's given him an eye patch there, which is a really clever design using like the black rubber bands, and then sort of one of those kind of funky, kind of like minecart tire pieces there for the eye. Just really, really clever. And again, it relates to water, it relates to the sea because of pirates and da-da-da, which is really cool. And then even a little fun addition there, like his gun kind of looks like a water gun, even though I'm sure it, in this universe is supposed to be an actual weapon. I don't know. I just think it's really, really clever. It's just a fun take on the theme, kind of getting those more unique concepts of water and putting them into something. And then even just kind of like the shape of the mouth and everything looks very sort of fish-like, kind of like an anglerfish or something. And that to me again is another sort of really nice reflection of water. And then on top of that, you've kind of got this really unique head design, which kind of reminds me of like Infernape, which kind of the wrong element there, but how he's got kind of fire coming out of his hair. And instead this is kind of like a sort of watery kind of thing kind of trailing off of his head, which I really like. I think it's just a very clever concept, and it just sort of screams water to me, which I think is really cool. And then again, you've got stuff with that on the tail and the hands and stuff. So water is very constant throughout this mock. It's very obvious that it's water themed for the elements round. And on top of that, he's able to kind of shape it into this awesome character that has a lot of personality. Just him having the gun, the eye patch, and just the general shape of his mouth and stuff. I can immediately tell, who he is, what he does, all sorts of stuff like that. So the reason I picked this and the reason I like this so much is there's a lot of clever techniques, there's a lot of nice stuff going on, but there's also so much character coming through. I think it's really commendable because that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I agree. I really like the Super Soaker weapon. I think I I think if it had just been a normal gun, it would have lost a lot of the charm that it has because it has that big eye that's like gives it a lot of expression, and he's kind of silly looking with the swirl pattern on his eye and the big gaping mouth. So giving him a goofier weapon really helps that kind of personality that it's already giving off. And like you were saying with the head kind of anglerfish, like it almost looks like an anglerfish is just kind of resting on top of a body, and he's like sort of controlling it. and like I can just imagine the anglerfish just kind of popping off and like hopping away. I don't know. Kind of
Yes,
cute looking.
that's clever. I like that.
And I also like the water trail for his head and his tail, and even his hands. It's really interesting. It's almost like he's a being made of water wearing a suit.
Yes, yes. Which adds a lot to your anglerfish theory, which I really like. It's like this is like a magic anglerfish that's like found armor or something, and somehow possesses water to make it himself like a humanoid or something. I really like that. It's a clever idea.
Yeah, he's got a lot of really interesting techniques. I like the big shoulder pads. That's always a nice, fun shape. Gives it a nice silhouette. Um, I really like the tail. It has almost like I forget what that's called, but it has like a fluke. It's a whale tail. It's a fluke. It has that kind of shape.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like the shape with the dino tails on the torso, kind of leading you down into the legs.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love how those are connected too. Kind of how a lot of the armor at the top there has that kind of lightsaber connection, and then using those Exoforce arms, and then kind of connecting it with the T bar to have that connection point for those. That's just clever. It's just kind of a nice overall kind of placement with everything, kind of making everything kind of flow together. It's really cool.
I also like that he's used Hero Factory 1.0 feet, and it's just kind of a minor thing, but you don't see those that often, so that's kind of
Yeah,
fun.
you don't actually. That's a good point too. And I mean, like texturally, those everything quite flows quite nicely on those legs there. Like I'm actually very surprised how those inverted tires on his like kneecaps there, those in color and shape very much mirror those 1.0 legs there, or feet rather. That's really surprising. I think it's really cool as well.
hmm Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. And you mentioned earlier the eye patch, just more interesting techniques. And he's used the minecart wheel. That's such a rare, and that's another like rare piece. You just don't see people using it. It's always kind of fun to actually to see people use it, and then when they use it well like this, it's very interesting.
Totally, yeah. And like I was talking to Cam about it in the last podcast, how we were sort of talking about the difference between nice part use and nice part use of sort of how, there kind of is a difference in terms of, like, wow, that's a really clever way of using this piece in an obscure way that it's totally not intended for. Or you can have just something that's like, oh yeah, that's a nice part use, like it's kind of, meant for that, and there's nothing inherently kind of unique or crazy wacky or out there about it, but it is still a nice part use, or the other kind of nice part use where you use pieces all kind of coherently in a nice way. Like you've found the perfect pieces to shape what you're looking for. And I certainly think, yeah, some of those more obscure parts in there, like the minecart piece, and yeah, those tires with the Hero Factory legs and stuff like that. I think those are definitely nice part usages, but they're not an NPU in the traditional way that people can refer to it as. Yeah, I think it's just he's just played with his pieces very well.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's interesting. It's cute. I don't know. This one's kind of hard for me to talk about, I think.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. One little thing I really like about it is kind of how he's connected the jaw, the lower jaw rather, on this mock. It kind of just sort of seems that it's it's connected with like T-bars and sort of smaller lift arms there, and then he's put the little flipper there for the tongue. But then the mask kind of just fits under that lift arm, and it's awesome how well everything flows with that. But it's actually quite a simple connection. It's really cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's like especially with the flipper for the tongue. It's like you got more water themed things, and even though it's just meant to be a tongue, it's not meant to be a flipper. It still kind of goes along well with that water theme that he's pushing with this mock, and it's like he's really tried to put it everywhere he could.
Exactly that. Yeah, that's really cool to see. Definitely. I also like too. This is a weird thing that I like a lot. Is on the photo where he's holding up the gun, kind of just how, because the little arm connection there, connecting the hand and the arm, just using those double ball joints there to do so. I know it's a simple technique. It's cool, but I don't know. I just kind of like how he sort of just shoved that to the side so that his hand can actually pose upwards. I don't know why I like that so much, but I guess for those of you who really like posability on a mock, kind of connecting the arm in that manner, you look at it and go like, oh well, he can't really lift his hand up, but for whatever reason, it didn't dawn on me that you could just sort of slide it to the side there. So I don't know. For some reason, that impresses me. That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I love the the double ball joint. Can't go wrong.
Exactly that. Exactly that. No, I think that's really cool. As I think we've pretty much discussed everything that we need to on that. Yeah, awesome stuff by Mr. Balloon Nom Nom.
I think it's Balam Nom Nom.
But is it really? I've been saying it wrong this whole time.
Balam Nom Nom.
Balloon Nom Nom.
I mean, I
That
could be wrong too.
Well, I'm sure he'll. I don't know. Hopefully, he watches and he can correct me if I'm saying it wrong, because I'll happily fix it. I do prefer. Was it Balom Nom Nom? Because that kind of flows nicely. Okay, I'll go with that. But yeah, nicely done. Let's talk about one of the other ones that you want to talk about from your top three.
All right. Well, let's move on from one impossible name to another impossible name. This is what Sparkytron or Spark. I don't know. A bunch of different names. He built again. This one's also for the theme fusion. I didn't realize I had picked two from the same round.
Nice.
But his theme to fuse with Bionicle was Vikings, which was a very short-lived theme that LEGO had, but I really enjoyed it.
One of the best.
Oh, it was great. It introduced a lot of nice new part molds that work really well with construction. And if you look at a lot of the prototype photos of the Viking sets, you'll see that they were considering using more Bionicle parts but recolored, which unfortunately we never got a lot of them.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I think there's even one that had a Hordiko Wanua head in dark green, and they never made it.
Oh.
Yeah, it looked really weird, but I would have loved to have that. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The mock. Alright, my turn. Its name. I think. I ran it through Translate earlier today, but I'm probably going to mess this up. I think it was something like Gerar Valbranson. So, when you look at it, first thing you notice is the beard. He's used the, I think that's Meltdown is the Hero Factory character. He's used the head. It's Meltdown?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so he's used the head of Meltdown as this, really wonderful, blonde beard for this Viking character. It's just got such a wonderful shape to it. Really flows with the, how vertical this whole build is. And it's just the long shape of that beard gives him such a nice shape to the head. And continuing with the head, I really like that there's a Knight's Kingdom helmet that he's turned in a different direction to use, still as a helmet, but in a completely different way. And he's attached the horns through the eyes. There's a lot I could talk about, so I'm just going to, instead of listing off everything point by point, I think I'll just say that it's got such a wonderful shape to it. It uses textures so well. It's got a great silhouette. It's fantastic. It's darn near perfect. I don't know. Hard to say. What do you think about it?
That's awesome.
What do I think? I love it. The beard thing is just a great part using. See, that's NPU in the normal way of using the meltdown head there. I like that a lot. Yeah, especially too. It's interesting seeing a Knight's Kingdom part inverted like that. I've sometimes seen them, and actually Dylan's final entry near the Bio Cup did it. I've sometimes seen those Knight's Kingdom helmets used as shoulder pads on mocks. But I've rarely seen them. Because you see it so often with Bionicle masks where people will flip it upside down and use that as a mask. Like that Wonderware mask we were talking about, the Wonderware Metru mask. A lot of people flip that upside down and use that as a head. But I don't know, I very rarely see Knight's Kingdom masks sort of flipped up like that. And it's cool because like this, you get a really awesome looking piece like that. And yeah, you can even get the connection points there with the eye holes in that. So I think that's really cool to see, and surprisingly surprising because I've just not seen that happen really. Unless of course it's happened all the time, and I'm forgetting all the instances in which it has. But I think it's unique. I think it's really cool. There's a lot of really clever part usages here in terms of the axe. Just the kind of texturing on those pieces looks very ornate and Viking-like. So I think that's just a brilliant use of that piece because of the shape and texture that it's got. But then also using this shield part here, which that came in a Ninjago set, didn't it?
I'm not the right guy to ask.
Okay, look, I want to say it was a Ninjago set.
I would believe that. I would say, if I had to guess, it would be Ninjago or Chima.
Yeah, maybe that, yeah. Maybe I'll look it up, we'll see. Maybe I'll throw up a photo or not. Or maybe not, I don't know, depends on if I'm in an editing mood. Besides the point, he's added that system dish over the top. So whatever that kind of little bit of red that you see under it, whatever that was, I want to say it had like a dragon printed on it or something. I don't know. Well, I'll try and find that part. I'm curious now. But again, a very nice part use, very similar to the axe, like having this sort of ornate pattern around that shield there. It looks very Viking-like. Those textures sort of seem very Nordic. It's cool. It's really, really cool to see. I think just those little choices like that are extremely clever. And one other thing I like, and I'll pass it back on over to Mitch, just the mesh of those chain pieces there for chainmail. That's so clever and so simple, but so effective. I love that so much. That's so cool. Is that is that cloth official? Is that an official part?
Yes, actually, it is. I was really glad you mentioned that. You're leading right into what I was going to talk about, the chains and the cloth. So the cloth piece, I think, comes from a Duplo set. I was talking to someone at Brick Fair, and they were saying that the cloth was from a Duplo set with like a caveman in it, I think. So that's what the cloth comes from, because everyone was asking him what it was when he had built it.
Yeah.
But you were mentioning the chains, and the chains were like something that really ended up deciding my vote for this mock, um, because it was between this or the one that turned Karzani into a Viking. But as I was looking at this, I was kind of looking at how he had played with textures and what he had done, like with the cloth, with the chains, with the smoothness of the Technic panels. Because when you're thinking about textures, it's not about having one solid, consistent thing. It's about how you've placed the textures that you've used. So
Yeah.
when you look at this Viking, the top most is this pelt that he's kind of wearing around his shoulder, and then underneath that is the smoother look of the Technic panels. They kind of give like a more of an armored look than the pelt has, but underneath that smoothness you have the chainmail. So he's layered all of his different textures that he's using in such a way that it all, even though they're all wildly different, it still makes sense. It doesn't feel unnatural.
Yeah.
So that, as I was looking at this mock, I felt like I had really learned a lot just from studying it, and it's what ended up the reason I ended up voting for, and he passed on to the top three spot.
Man, I'm so glad you literally just said those words because now I'm learning so much about it too. That's so cool. Wow. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Because yeah, just literally that, just how you layer that can make those three very distinctly different textures flow so nicely into each other. That's so cool. That's so cool. I also love too how he's used these brown Technic panels there as like, yeah, more kind of cloth and stuff. Especially just kind of flipping those on the torso there. It very much all sort of flows together and looks like a kind of undergarment or something. That's so cool.
Yeah, I also kind of like how he's used these little round single studs on towards the waist. They kind of have like a wood print to them, so it almost makes it look like it's like some kind of wooden armor, like with the because it's all brown. I don't know. It's interesting because if you look under the brown, you'll see this dark tan, and so that kind of looks more like the clothes he's wearing, and then he's got this sort of wooden armor, which I imagine would be very impractical, but hey, whatever. It's interesting. He's played around with a lot of interesting stuff here. It's
Definitely.
it's really nice. I also really like the boots. It's a very simple design, but it's not the focus of the mock. The focus of the mock really is the beard, the torso, and the weapons.
That said, though, with the boots, I love just the little inclusion of those T-bars there. Kind of not really shoelaces. That makes him seem kind of shoelaces seem sort of kind of is insignificant on a Viking, I guess. But just I don't know, they kind of look like bootstraps or something like that. Like it's just a nice little addition there. And then even adding these, I don't even know what you'd call them, but these weird kind of wheel pieces that aren't really wheel pieces here on the top of the boots. It's a simple but really effective addition there that kind of really kind of I don't know makes those boots look even cooler. I really like that.
Yeah, I think those are technically counted as wheel pieces. I think Bricklink has those registered as wheels.
There you go. There you go. No way! Oh, that's so cool. Sorry, I just happened to have Instagram open, and somebody literally just posted the mock that comes with that shield that I was looking for. Sweet synchronicity. That's awesome. So then it was Ninjago. So there is an older. The way they've taken the photo, I can't see the set number, but it is an old Destiny's Bounty from Ninjago. It's that Ninjago wave where it had the bad guys were like that. The color scheme was like dark blue, black, and trans like yellow.
No.
But I just send you a photo of the boat.
That'll work. I took a bit of a hiatus from Lego for a while, and I missed out on a lot of Ninjago. I was surprised to see that it's still going strong.
Well, I don't know if you ever heard, but at one point with Ninjago, Lego went, yeah, this is the last thing. This is the last Ninjago wave. Say goodbye. Ninjago's going, and then the fans were pissed. And then Lego went, oh, we didn't know you liked it so much. We're bringing it back, and everyone was like, yeah. So I wish that happened with Bionicle when that happened. Apparently we weren't vocal enough, but yeah, essentially it was gonna die, and then Lego realized that the fans did not want it to die, and so they kept it going. And yeah, it's still one of the best and most successful Lego themes, which is really cool.
Huh. Can they do that with Vikings? Can they do that with
Can they do that with Vikings, please?
Can they do that with Nexo Knights?
Exactly.
Can we get Nexo Knight construction figures, please?
For a day?
Yeah, right. I heard the other day it was on a Facebook group, and it could have just been some Lego mum. I don't know. It could have been a lie. I don't know. But I read somewhere someone saying next year when Elves gets discontinued, da 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 da, and they were saying like, yeah, no, it'll get discontinued next year. And I was like, well, why? Elves is such a great theme. When was this happening? And so like, literally, I heard it from one random source on Facebook. I don't know if that's true or not. But if it is, that is sad news. Elves is a great theme. I am disappointed.
Well, everything comes and goes, I suppose. I'm disappointed to hear that too, if that's true.
Yeah. I hope it's not. I hope that was a lie. Yeah.
We still have Friends and the superhero girls to keep giving us those nice colors, but I will miss Elves.
But yeah, quickly with the Ninjago boat. So yeah, it does have a sort of weird dragon print on it. Yeah, a lot of good pieces in that set. That's a nice set.
Yeah, it's cool. But I think I prefer the use of it as a shield on our Viking guy.
I agree with you there. It's actually really cool too how the piece has kind of been printed in a manner so that you can actually put a system dish over the top of it and kind of cover up that pattern. I really like that. That alone makes me want to buy that set. That's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. I also kind of like how it uses this gold accent color on that sort of ornate pattern around the outside. That really highlights the gold belt buckle on the center of the Viking. I think that.
Look at you transitioning into what I wanted to talk about.
Hey.
I love that too. Yeah, I agree. And even just that belt design as a whole. Just using those two like ammo chain pieces in dark brown. I think that's what they're called. Just kind of wrapping those around the chest there. That looks so much like a Viking like belt. Especially just how big it is too, because like I don't know, that's how they looked. And that's cool. And another thing too, like you said, there's the gold on the shield, there's a gold on that big dish, but also too, also there's gold on the helmet. But another thing I quite like is how that gold very much is so close to the dark tan on the legs there, just like tonally, they're very close colors. And even too, sort of the nougat on the printed wood piece there, that's quite close to it. That's also quite close to that gold color. Just tonally, I understand they are different colors, but tonally that really helps the sort of overall color scheme because he's picked shades that are very close to each other on the color chart or whatever you want to call it. So as a result, things just kind of flow nicer. And again, that's another beautiful lesson, like how I was saying before. Like there's like 3 or 4 different textures in this, but because he's layered them so nicely, they flow so nicely. And so again, there's 3 or 4 different colors in this mock, but because tonally they're so close to each other, they flow very nicely. So that again is another beautiful addition there. I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really great mock. I remember when I think he was saying that he wasn't really happy with how the hands turned out, just because he had to use more or less standard Hero Factory hands. But
yeah,
I was thinking about like any other hand design that you could use at that scale, and I don't know. I don't think really anything else would work because they'd all be either too robotic or too small or too big. I think the what he's got works just fine, even if they are a little small.
I'm definitely with you on that. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, yeah, I'm with him in terms of it would have been awesome to have used a different hand design, but I don't know what the heck you could have done. There's not many choices with that scale. I agree. Yeah, and I guess that goes back to the perfectionism thing I was talking about before. It's that he's not happy with that. He could spend hours trying to perfect it, but like it works. It's really not that big a deal. with the scale, it's kind of the best you can do. That's fine. Go with it. There is a difference between like settling and going with it because it's the best you can do. And I mean, that perfectionism thing is actually really important in a contest as well. If you spend way too long trying to perfect the details when the mock is essentially done, you're going to run out of time and not be able to enter your entry. So rather, accept where it's at. See the positives out of it. Don't look at the negatives as much, and kind of go with that. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
No, but I think we've talked very nicely about that. Unless there's anything else you want to round off with it, but I think
Oh
that's
no, I think
nicely
I've exhausted pretty much everything to say about this one.
Yeah. Perfect. So let's go into the final one of mine. That was one of my favorites, and I think I may go so far as to say this is probably my favorite. This is one I have actually spoken about before in a past episode, but I'm more than happy to hear Mitch's opinion on it because I'm sure there's a lot we can talk about on this. So this mark is by King Marshy and is called Year of the Pig. I love this a lot. I'll briefly talk about it and then I'll hand it over to you, good sir. But like I said before, really, really awesome. Great use of playing with these dishes on the tummy there. Such a nicely designed head design. And the food blows my mind. So many very clever part usages. Like, who'd have thought that Krana and Krater and everything would make such brilliantly designed food. I love these little dumplings and everything. There's a lot going on here. All of it is so well done. I love this to death.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack here, so I suppose we'll just get started. The food. So one of the first things I noticed about this mock was you mentioned the food and how it uses Krana and Krata, and it's got like just all sorts of crazy piece uses. Um, couple I really like is that he has this steamer rack for dumplings in the back, and it uses one of I think that's Sensei Wu's conical hat
That's the one.
for the lid, and then he has the dumplings in a bowl right next to it. And I don't know, I think it's really funny that this pig man is eating chasu bao, and if you don't know what chasu bao is, it's steamed pork dumplings. So
Fantastic.
as I saw this, I was like, that's a bit odd, isn't it? But I don't know, I like that. That was a nice little cute touch. But going on to the pig guy himself, it's amazing how like complex of a build it is. But the idea of it, still comes across as this big pot-bellied pig man that's stuffing his face with all this food. And just how ornate he is with these bright reds and this fur-lined coat and these bright greens and yellows and tan, and it's just gold accents everywhere. I really like the use of some of these Orient Expedition flag pieces at the bottom of like his belt.
Me too.
I have a real soft spot for Orient Expedition. It's my favorite system theme.
I would probably agree with you on that. It was a brilliant theme. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember always wanted the big sets because you could build the board game out of them, but I never got them. But anyway.
The board game was fun. Yeah. Yes. No. Great theme.
I also really like how he's used these Matau Hordika heads as the part of the legs. And that dark green
Yeah. Actually.
flows so well with that bright, vibrant red. Such a nice, like, oriental color palette here.
Yeah.
But like the real star of the show is that, like, the torso and that head. If you
100%.
like, especially the torso, like using, like you mentioned, those dishes earlier to create that like pot-bellied look. Even though it's not like really bulging up, because it's such a large piece, it really gives. It kind of fools you into thinking that it's bulging out. And
Yes.
going back to the Ninjago hats, he sort of used that for like his chest, which kind of gives it a nice rounded look. Gives you the idea of just how fat he really is. And that makes sense. He's a pig.
Yeah.
And the head, he's used this krana on like the nose and his brow, and kind of has this nice wrinkled look. Kind of, it looks like a pig nose. And, I don't know.
Exactly that. Yeah.
So much to talk about. I don't really know how to describe it all.
I know exactly that. I'm with you on that. Something I kind of just noticed now is the ears on the pig head. Just using those flag pieces there as ears is brilliant. That's a great part use. But I also really love how he's attached those little antenna pieces, like you've taken out the actual like antenna bit and the base of the antenna, and just sort of slotted them on there for like little earrings or something. That's really really nice. I love that.
Hmm. I also, in the header, I like how he's connected the eyebrows with that hinge part. He's taken out the hinge itself and put the eyebrows in, and then he's using the
I
end.
didn't know you could connect stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't know you could do that either, but I also like that he's using the end of the bar from the spike to connect the sort of crest of his hat helmet thing that he's wearing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. That's so cool. And I mean, just yeah, I don't know. It's just so good.
Yeah. I also like the table. I like how he's used these what did those come on first? Oh, those came on Kopaka, didn't they?
Yes. First they came on Kabaka. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's using the Vaki versions because they're brown, but I like
That's the one. Yeah.
such a simple table leg idea, and it works.
Definitely. I love that. I don't know, like those Vaki pieces. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I don't know. I kind of find them a little bit more difficult to use. And so it's cool to see them being used on something really effectively like this. Yeah, it's really cool.
Hmm. Also love these lanterns that are hanging off of the table with those little tassels coming off the bottom. That's such a nice use of the pods from the Makuta. I can't remember the proper name of them, but it's a really nice way of using them.
Definitely is. Yeah, I love that tassel piece, that new piece there. And I mean, he's pretty much used them in the way that they're intended to be used, ironically. But it works so well there. Yeah, and yes, exactly. What a great idea to use those pod pieces like that. I have no idea what they're called either. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
You might know this. Do you know what part he's using to connect the kind of like a weird uh, question mark shape that's hanging from the poles that connects to the lanterns? Do you know what piece that is? I don't recognize those.
Yes.
Yes, I can get you a photo of it. It's so there's a collectible minifigure series minifigure that was a painter, and so that is actually like a paint roller.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it came in black in a modular building set, and it was actually used as like lights on a yeah, so it was used to kind of connect these sort of lanterns on the side of the building. I think it was quite clever. I'm going to send you an eBay link because Bing is awful, and that's where it took me. But you can there's that part.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
No, that's that is also. I mean, those pieces don't come in many sets, but I do have some, and whenever I've been able to kind of use them or play around with them, they're so awesome because they have this really unique shape to them, and I don't know, they're quite versatile and yeah, easy to use. Yeah, I really like them, and here it's a great use of them too. Yeah, because I don't know, yeah, you're able to get such a unique shape out of it. Like you have essentially two connections in kind of like a 90-degree kind of difference there. It's very versatile and they're well used here. Yeah, it's cool.
I mentioned it in passing earlier, but I really like these big claw spiked pieces. I think those came in Shima sets, but he's used the white pieces as like a fur lining for his shirt here.
Yes.
That is such a good part use. That's such a nice effect, and it's so simple.
You know, that to me has been one of the consistent things that I've seen throughout the BioCup. People have used those specific pieces for so much in entries. Like the podcast I did last, somebody used them as sort of the way to form kind of like the bits on the eyes for like a Mardi Gras mask. Vlad's used them on like the whiskers on one of his like dragon guys for this same theme for the round. He's used them here. A lot of people have used those parts. They're really good pieces.
Yeah, oh yeah, they've got such a nice shape to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wish I had some.
Well, I mean, they came with Witch Doctor, at least specifically in white. I mean, I don't know how expensive that set is now, but like, I thoroughly recommend getting a Witch Doctor set. The pieces in that thing are brilliant. So if you ever in the mood to buy a really decent set, I would say get Witch Doctor because I think you get like 4 of them in that set. And then every other set in Witch Doctor is great. So if you haven't got that, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, I saw him at Brick Fair, but he was a little overpriced. I can find him online for cheap though. It's not an expensive set these days.
Sorry, say again?
It's not an expensive set these days. He's pretty cheap.
If not, I bricklinked a bunch of them in purple when I was making my purple Makuta guy.
You stole all the purple.
Everyone says that. I'm sure there's still purple available. I didn't take all of it.
No, we love you. We love you.
What was I going to say? The inevitable day when I do make it down to Brick Fair, Virginia, I'll bring my purple ones and you can have some because, man, I am not going to use them.
Oh, that's very sweet of you.
You're most welcome, sir. Anything else you want to say about this mark? Like, I'd love to talk about it more, but I can't articulate my words. This mark leaves me speechless.
Yeah, just little things like I like the necklace. It's just a nice little touch. Doesn't detract. Doesn't really add a bunch, but it's there and it works. I like the chopsticks and how he's holding them in the main photo, and I also really like this cloth bit on his belt. That just adds a lot. It's little touches.
Yes, actually, yeah. I really like the cloth pieces he's used there actually, because the sort of top cloth piece is the like poncho from a collectible minifigure, and then the bottom one is from the Takodana Force Awakens set. Two really, really good cloth pieces, and they're very small as well, so they're kind of more like, I guess, quote unquote minifigure cloth pieces. One 100% is a minifigure cloth piece, the other one doesn't fit on a minifigure, but you know what I mean. And so, like, immediately with that, I kind of go like, I can't really use it on a Bionicle, but here we go, he's using them really effectively. So I think that in itself inspires me a little bit because it's kind of like, oh yeah, I guess I could use those pieces in my Bionicles. So I'll be sure to break some of those out and see what I can do. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. And one last thing that just caught my eye, right as you were wrapping up that sentence, his feet. He's used the hockey player feet, and I never really noticed it, but they're like hooved, like a pig's foot.
They are, yeah.
And I never thought about that. I just noticed that now. It's like, that's brilliant.
That's fantastic. Well, quick question before we finish on this guy. How long did they have for this round again? What was it, 2 weeks?
Yeah, every round was 2 weeks.
Yeah. Man, the fact that this was built in 2 weeks, that alone is really impressive.
Yeah, especially for like such a bizarre round theme. Holidays was kind of the one that threw everyone off guard.
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, like, just saying that, it depends. Sometimes I'm able to bang a mock out in like a day, and other times it takes me like a month. But like, the fact that like we're saying, we've literally probably covered this mock from like head to hoof, and literally there's something clever, creative, awesome, or something like that to talk about in any part of it. And so, like, that alone makes me go, like, oh, this would have needed, like, weeks of planning and, heaps of experimentation and play and da-da-da. But he managed to do that in 2 weeks. Like, that's really impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's, like you said, it's impressive. It's a really great mock.
Definitely is, definitely. So that rounds up my top 3 favorites from the Bio Cup. Let's get to your last one, and then we would have said both of our top 3s.
All right, so this one is by Sergei Rachmaninoff. Love the pun. This one is called The Emblem of Freedom, and is a very patriotic star-spangled red, white, and blue bald eagle. And it really grabs your attention. I love it. It's I actually got to see this one in person at Brick Fair this year.
I was gonna say, how was seeing it in person? Because as awesome as this looks in pictures, I imagine seeing it in person would make it look like 50 times cooler.
It's actually a lot smaller than I thought it was, but it still really, really grabs your eye. I mean, look at the colors. Look at how it's standing. I mean, that's such a powerful shot. But it's really solid. I mean, there are parts of it, like the wings especially, that look like they sort of look like they could just fall apart. But I mean, we moved it around. We had put it in places, and it was staying together really well. So
wow, that's really impressive.
It's a solid build.
Because just looking at it now, just the way these wings are designed is genius. I mean, he's taken all these curved slopes, which I kind of didn't even hit me how many shapes there are for those. Like, they literally get larger and larger per feather. And that's beautiful for the wings because, I mean, that's kind of how wings naturally look and work. But it's so cool seeing these pieces that have been, that exist like that, slowly getting larger and stuff. And so you're able to create a nice sense of unity throughout the wing, but also get that kind of sort of smaller into larger kind of flow with it. That's just a really nice use of parts, really effectively utilizing the different shapes and stuff. It's really cool to see.
Hmm. Yeah, he mentioned in the description that he had been he'd wanted to test himself with more elaborate wings over the summer. So this gave him the opportunity to do so, and I think he did a good job. He passed.
I definitely think so. Yeah, exactly. That's so cool. I love these legs here. I mean, just the way that they flow into the torso there is very seamless, and that's beautiful. But just the simple use of these cone pieces there, how it kind of flows into the leg there, that looks so bird-like. That looks so effective. I don't know. That's just a really subtle, simple, beautiful transition. I really like that.
Hmm. I also really like the talons on this mock. It's just another really simple design. He's just used one of those like torch-looking pieces that have one bar on the bottom that splits into 4 bars. And he's used that they're in yellow, and he's used it to just attach some really simple feet onto it.
Yeah,
it works really well.
It does indeed. That's so cool. I feel like I've been talking about it more. What do you like about it, good sir?
Well, the colors are excellent. I mean, the blue is located entirely in the torso, and then all of the feathered bits are red or white. Most of it's white. The red is almost more of an accent color when you look at it. And then he's got, just simple yellow for the talons and the beak. Really all the shapes that he's working with here, he's using a lot of larger parts in the torso and in the head to create just some really nice flowing shapes. I kind of like that he's used this superhero chest mold in the torso, but he's hidden up the logo on it with the Glatorian foot. So
oh yeah, isn't that clever?
that could be a Batman torso, that could be a Captain America torso. I don't know, but I'd love it if it were a Captain America torso.
I know. Me too. That's cool. That's cool.
It's really clever too.
Yeah,
like
it's nice. I also like how he's attached the wings. Like, it's hard to see him in the main photo, but you can just barely see the ball joints that connect into the into like I think if I remember correctly, there's just a couple bones, like a CCBS bone in the back that the shell connects to. I don't remember exactly. I remember it's a much simpler connection than you probably think it is.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that's one reason I'm mad jealous that you got to see this in person. Is like there's no back shots of this. And so, I know there is. My bad. Yeah, there is. I'm looking at it now. There you go. Except it's taking forever to load, but there you go. But even just that, like being able to see a mock in person, you're kind of able to get a much nicer understanding of how it all sort of works and flows together. That even if the pictures do show it like this back shot does here, you're still kind of able to understand it in a new way. So I very much envy you seeing it in person, but that's really cool. I just saw too, like how the way the stand kind of attaches into the body like that, like how it kind of is almost a part of it. Like I don't imagine you could detach the bird from the stand, but I think that in itself is actually
You can't.
yeah, okay, you can't detach it. Fair enough. Okay, but no, I just think that's actually quite clever because you're able to actually kind of get more out of the connections there by attaching it to the stand. Like maybe the back would have sort of cut off in a specific way that you couldn't really use the blue pieces in a way to hold it all together. But then by adding the stand in there and then really sort of putting it into the body, you're kind of able to cheat it a bit, but cheating it in a good way. I think it's just very clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the backup is not as important as that main shot where you see the giant bright wings. So the stand connecting into the back doesn't really detract from it because that's not the focus of the mock.
Totally, exactly that. Yeah, I agree with you. I like too. I only just noticed it, kind of around the head. He's just put that flag piece there that kind of goes over the neck. That's really cool.
I don't think I'm seeing that.
on the front of the head.
Oh yeah, I
kind
see
of
it
like-
now. I see it now.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
I thought you were talking about the
Yeah.
back of the head for some reason.
All right, that's okay. Yeah, I like that. I kind of didn't kind of realize how well that sort of piece would actually flow with CCBS parts, but there you can see that it does, and I think that too. That's just cool because I imagine the sort of gap that you would have got there, had that flag piece not been there, would have been a little kind of disrupting with the overall kind of flow of the mock, and so just that little simple thing like that's it's effective. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really solid mock. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's so simple and it's so simple in its design, like in its concept that like this sounds kind of mean, but there's not like a lot of what you would call nice part use. Everything is pretty obvious. It works. it all flows nice. It's all designed well and with a purpose, so it works.
Yeah, it's what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be overly complex, overly complicated. It utilizes and effectively uses all the things that it needs to get across what it needs to and what it is, and that in itself is what makes it so nice. Like it's simple, it's like simplistically beautiful. Yeah, I'm with you on that. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's interesting too. Like just when you were saying like it's simple, and I'm just looking at these wings. I'm like, that's not simple. How did he even do that? But it's really interesting that of how inherently yes it is simple because of what we were saying, but it looks super complex and it looks super difficult, and that's the whole thing with art where everyone's like, man, that looks easy, and then they try and do it and it's like, man, this is difficult as heck. So like that's what I think looks so cool about it, is how effortless it may have been, but it comes across as looking quite complex and difficult. So if anything, it's the inverse of what I was saying. So my argument is not valid. But besides the point, it's cool. Like I said, he utilizes the pieces in the way that it needs to, and he gets the job done. It's great. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's real nice. And so was the other one. I keep forgetting about the other one. It was a guy that did had like a whole cookout grill scene with like fireworks in the back. That was cool too. Yeah, they were all cool.
I love that. Yeah, especially using
They were. I know. I love and hate that when everyone in the round, or the pod, as Primus called them, everyone in that pod, all three of them do something really, really awesome. You're like, I can't pick a favorite. These are all so
Oh yeah, that was the elves theme. The elves theme was a really hard one. We had to get a tiebreaker on that.
Yes, that's cool. That's really cool. That fireworks entry you're talking about with someone having a barbecue outside, he used some of those new like effect pieces you get in like superhero sets for the fireworks. Such a nice part use. I love that. Yeah, no, really, really effective. Good entries in that round, definitely.
Yeah, no, it was a good contest. It was a good round. I don't know what else to say about it, really.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, I suppose that's it for all 6 of our top favorite mob. Just now it's time to just chat about the Bio Cup. It's over. It's over. It's exciting. How was, because that was one thing you were talking about before, just like talking with old Sarah Gay at Brick Fair, because obviously when that was happening, Bio Cup was still kind of underway. How was it to kind of meet some of the contestants and just also see a bunch of the entries in person and stuff? What was that like?
It was interesting. It was, I don't know. It's kind of odd because like for one, there weren't a lot of people who were in the contest that went there. It was like a handful. It is such a different experience seeing a mock in photos and seeing it in person. Because I mean, sometimes they're so much better in person, and sometimes they're so much better in the photos. Like one of my favorite mocks from the photos, from just seeing photos of it, I saw it in person and suddenly it was like, oh, this isn't quite as good as I remembered it. It wasn't a BioCup mock. It was one of Patrick's coat guys. But
okay, interesting.
But like then another one of his coat guys was one that I didn't really like when I saw the photos, and then seeing it in person, I thought it was so much better. It was really really interesting how that kind of happened. But as far as BioCup mocks go, I mean they were all. It was really great to see all the ones that had been entered in person. There wasn't one that disappointed me or I had like a strong change of opinion seeing them in person.
Yes, that's cool. That's really cool.
I saw the one we mentioned earlier, the guy with the super soaker. I saw that one too. Yep. That was a lot taller than I thought it was. It looks kind of small in the photos, but when you actually see it in person, it's a decent size.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's neat. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then on the public days, I actually met 2 people who had competed, but they weren't displaying. So that was really fun to meet. People kind of come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're Mitch Henry from BioCup." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me," and then just chat a little bit about the contest. So it was fun.
That's really cool. Nice. Yeah, awesome. It's interesting. Yeah, you're saying that about just like seeing it in person and kind of getting a different opinion on it at least. Like I found that at conventions, not so much because kind of being in Australia, it's a little more difficult. Most of the people, I don't know, it seems to be an Australia thing, like to a degree. Like obviously you got like Jaffa and a couple other people, but I find that a lot of the AFOLs, at least in the areas that I go to, they don't seem to post on Flickr or post anywhere really. And if they do, it'll occasionally just be like on a Facebook group or something like that. So kind of seeing mocks online versus actually seeing them in person at a convention is a little rarer. At least that's just kind of how I find it. Or they'll post pictures of it like after the convention, which kind of is a little bit different. But the occasional times where I have seen something in person and then versus on the internet, like I saw Anthony's stuff at Brickvention. Yeah, no, it was just cool. Nothing necessarily surprised me. I guess the Tea Dragon was a little bigger than I thought, but not much. But one thing I do notice, just kind of the atmosphere of a Lego convention is really awesome, and there'll be times where I'll see mocks that, if I saw it online, I wouldn't really give it the time of day, just because I don't know, it's not as complex, there's not as much going on. Maybe it's someone who's sort of very new to Lego, and I don't know, there's less to look at it or something. Not that if you're new to Lego that means that you're a terrible builder or something. That's not what I meant to say. But like, there's less kind of going on about it. But because I'm at a Lego convention, I often find myself still looking at stuff that I may not consider as like out there, amazing, exceptional or something, and still actually really enjoying seeing it, which I really like, because from that I actually learn more, or I'll have more fun, engage more, stuff like that. I just think that's really cool. It's it doesn't relate at all to what the Bio Cup is, but that just kind of came into my head at least. So I love that about conventions, how you can very much get a lot out of it, even if the mocks aren't. It's like this. Where did I hear that quote? I don't remember, but it was something like a convention is like a pizza. Like, even if it's bad, it's still really good because it's pizza. So like,
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, it was really interesting meeting people who were competing in this contest and kind of talking about it. I had a sort of lengthy discussion with someone. Like, he seemed kind of worried about like the future of Lego and of construction. He seemed really grateful for the contest, because it was like he had these concerns that Lego was sort of becoming like a subsidiary of Disney and other companies. It's just like making other licensed things, and we're getting less and less Lego originals. So
Right. Okay.
he seemed grateful for the contest, because it was sort of a way of getting back into Legos are Legos first, not buildable pop culture references.
yes, I understand. Okay, yeah. I mean, if anything, like, I would 100% agree with him. Like, that's something that was so awesome about the BioCup is, like, what is it? Do I have the BioCup group open? How many entries did we get?
I know a couple people took some of them down, but right now it's at about 234.
Yeah, I mean, friggin' 200 entries in the space of, how long has this been? Like 2 months or something? Or more than that?
Three,
Less than that.
4 months?
2 months? Yeah, there you go. Like, that's so cool. That's so awesome how we just got this burst of activity and burst of really high quality stuff. Just because we decided we're going to put a contest on. That's so awesome. That's cool. And yeah, great way to keep Bionicle and CCBS, Construction, whatever, alive. That's awesome.
Yeah, someone I was talking to earlier today, I think, was saying that it was really nice having the cup, because it was sort of something for the construction community to latch onto, because we don't really have anything right now from the company.
Yes.
So giving us like something to do, something to look forward to, and something to really start like pumping out all these new and interesting creative mocks was really nice, and probably a good reason why it was such a large contest, especially compared to last year. In last year we took like the top 32 entries out of like 50 something, and this year we took the top 82 out of 140 or something like that. It was ridiculous.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. And that too, like, I was sort of briefly touched upon it with Primus at a point, like those people that this was their sort of introduction into the community. This is how they've come into it. So like we've recruited some more people. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all. I kind of I expected people who were inactive to become active again, but I didn't expect any new faces, and anyone of like, there were some people that no one had ever heard of, and they were like just phenomenal. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah. I mean, had Rock Monster, how active was Rock Monster before? Was he posting stuff?
He posted stuff. He was in last year's competition.
That's right. Yeah.
He lost to Dylan. He lost to Sparky. So guess
Oh wow.
guess he got the last laugh this year.
Yeah.
But no, he was active in last year's competition. That's how I found out about him.
That's really cool though. That's really exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I always got confused between Poor Disadvantaged and Rock Monster. I kept grouping the two together. Yeah, I don't know, they're kind of similar build styles to a degree, but They're both fantastic builders. I love being able to kind of follow people in the contest too. Like for example, I was starting to really follow Jaffa, and I was kind of gunning for him to win, to be honest, just because I was really enjoying a lot of the stuff he was bringing out. Like probably if I'm continuing that thing that I was saying before, probably my like fifth favorite entry was maybe his was for the holidays one where he did that bear and the mech. Yeah, the bear was amazing. Oh, I hope Jaffa, if you're listening, I hope you come to Brickvention soon and you bring that because I want to see it in person. Yeah, no, that was phenomenal. So just stuff like that, just some of his entries, I was like, man, I hope this guy wins. Like he's making lots of home runs here. Like he's doing a good job.
Some of that Australian pride kicking in.
That's right. That's true. Exactly that. There were times I was like, man, I wish I wasn't covering it so I could enter like some of these rounds. Would be really fun to build in. That said, I could still build in the rounds. There's nothing stopping me. But it's a bit different when you're entering a contest that's just making a theme fusion mock or something like that. It's just a different atmosphere, I guess. So yeah. Yeah, I guess it's that thing of like a convention, like there's a difference between being around a bunch of like-minded people and talking Lego and seeing a bunch of Lego than there is just, staying at home and making something cool and posting it online. It's an entirely different atmosphere and it's beautiful. And so I guess that's kind of what makes BioCup so awesome is that it is, like people were saying, it's kind of the thing for everyone to rally behind and get excited about and enjoy. And yeah, no, it's really cool.
Especially in the earlier rounds when people were more open with sharing their works in progress. By
Yes.
by like the second to last round, people had stopped. They were not showing people what they were building until they actually posted it. And so that kind of, I mean, naturally, as you'd expect, that kind of makes it lose a bit of momentum, but it makes more sense for the contestants because they don't want to show their hand early. But
Sure.
when you're in the earlier rounds, everyone really gets a lot of like publicity. They show off what they're working on. They get feedback early, so it keeps that buzz going for a bit.
Yeah. Not I know you were like, I'm not thinking about BioCup 2019 until 2019, but just in terms of like what is next, one thing that I would love to see, and I've touched upon this in this episode and the last podcast, just the that of everyone kind of being able to kind of come together and focus on one theme and make something around it. I'd love to see more community collaborations and stuff. Whether even if it is a contest or not, like that's kind of besides the point in my opinion. But just the idea of everyone coming together and like, let's build Plague Mechs, let's build Rahi, let's build Galador, I don't know, whatever. And just everyone being like, yeah, we're the community's going through a everyone build up phase, like that would be awesome to see. Just to kind of keep the community building and keep them kind of people able to kind of rally behind stuff like that. That I think, to a degree, the BioCup's kind of brought stuff like that out. And I love seeing stuff like that. I'd love to see people kind of doing things like that. Even some system guys did it ages ago, and they never did it again, which was a shame because it was a clever idea. People would do flash mocks. So what that was is like it's like a flash mob but with mocks. So you'd wake up and there'd be like 20 mocks all in this really obscure weird theme that were all very much related. And it was this thing of like, why is everyone posting this? Like what? And the one that I remember, it was like this weird polar bear thing where it was like these humanoid polar bears and they lived in like Arctic, Nordic like cities and stuff. And like 20 builders all at once like posted this stuff. And they're like the title was always like flash mock and then like whatever. That's really clever. So yeah, I mean, it's not inherently BioCup related, but it's at least in the spirit of BioCup. I would love to see people doing some stuff like that in the future because I think that's very community, very cool. I'd love to see.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That'd be nice.
What else? What else? I mean,
well, to kind of, I think to piggyback off what's next for BioCup, I don't know exactly where it's going. It's not going away right now. I found that the hardest part of this year was trying to come up with themes for the rounds that were open enough to interpretation, allowed for creativity, but also were rigid enough that you had a theme to work with, and also provided sub-themes for all the different, as you called them, pods. We found that to be really difficult. I don't know if we could do it, but I remember some of the mock pages BioCups had like a theme for the whole contest. I'd be interested in trying something like that, but if it won't or couldn't work for some reason, then I'm not going to try and force it. But something like that would be interesting. And I've had this idea of like a BioCup greatest hits thing, and we'd have to be like 5 contests in to do this. But like, what we'd have is essentially like every round would be a theme from a previous contest, but it would be in like a sort of random order, so you don't really know what's coming up next. Like maybe we could have Set Revamp as one, which was the preliminary round of last year, and then we could have Theme Fusion as another round, which was round 1 of this year. I'd like to do something like that, but we'd have to be in a couple of years before we could do something like that.
That's fair enough. That's really cool, though. I like that idea. Yeah, awesome. Remind me again, because I think I kind of remember how did older rounds or older BioCups, how did they keep the same theme like consistently throughout? Was that like when maybe I don't remember. How did they do it?
I don't know what year it was. I think it was the year Brendan won. Was the one where the preliminary was build a character, and then every round afterwards was build something for that character.
Yes, okay, I see. Okay.
We've got judges that were in that one, and they hated it. Just like, because if you had built something that was not designed to go with like a vehicle or a weapon or something, then you kind of got screwed over, in that you had built something that was not compatible with other things.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
like an idea like that of build something and then build more related to that thing, or just some kind of theme that connects the whole contest. I'd like to try something like that, but I don't know if it could be done. So
Yeah, that's fair enough.
it's still just a thought, but it might be interesting if we can make it work, and interest is starting to decline in the contest. It might be a nice angle to take.
Totally. Yeah, that's cool though. Yeah. I mean, as well, like people listening, say in the comments if you have ideas for future themes or concepts for BioCup. Because I mean, heck, I'm sure I speak for Mitch when I say that it's always good to hear it. Whether or not we do it's is up for debate. But happy to hear suggestions.
Oh yeah, suggestions are always appreciated.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool though. That's really awesome. Yeah, good to hear that we've got at least ideas are brewing for BioCup 2019. That's good. Even though leave it for a bit and come back to it because it's over. It's time to celebrate. Exactly. I think that's it, isn't it? I mean, unless there's anything else you want to have a chat about.
I guess just last thing is just thanks to Nick Voss for supplying the art book for us. Thanks to BZ Power for supplying, I think, literally every other prize except for the trophy and the prototype parts. That's from Pat. Thanks to Pat with the prototype parts. I think the trophy is going to have a 3D printed Mask of Ultimate Power in it, and I think that's Marco's 3D print design.
Cool.
And yeah, again, thanks BZ Power, thanks to Nick Voss, and thanks to you for covering this.
Sure.
I think a large part of the increase of contestants was because of your channel, and I
I hope so.
I really appreciate it.
No worries.
We
I'm
were
happy to do it.
we were very happy when we could say that we had both Ben Cossey and BZ Power supporting us. We felt like we had two of the larger names in the community right now on our at our back. So that was a good feeling.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you. I'm humbled that you placed me with BZ Power. That's that's a compliment. Thank you. Awesome. No, you're most welcome, good sir. Thank you. That I think I will probably post this after I've posted the episode where I'll talk about the final stuff. So this will conclude the BioCup coverage. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It's been a good time. Awesome stuff that's come out of the competition. And thank you, Mitch Henry. You didn't thank yourself, which I don't expect you to, but I will be the guy to thank you. Thank you for keeping the contest alive, and thank you for coming on the podcast multiple times, having a chat with me, and thank you for just doing a good job with the contest. You succeeded. You did done good. Time to celebrate, good sir. Plug away though. Where can people find you if they want to find you?
You can find me mostly on Flickr and Instagram, although I do occasionally post to websites like Eurobricks and BZ Power and TTV, but I prefer Flickr and Instagram. On Flickr, my name is just Mitch Henry, and then I think on Instagram my name is Mitch_Henry_CZQ. Those are the two places you can find me. And don't forget to check out the other judges. They're also all on Flickr. Be sure to check them out too, because I couldn't have done any of this without them. I should have thanked them as well.
Well, we're thanking them now. So
Yes.
that's okay.
Thank you
Exactly
all.
that.
Exactly that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Marco, Cam, Tony, Pat, Anthony.
Yeah, that's the one. Perfect. I will have links in the description to all of Mitch's stuff, as well as link to the Bio Cup, and that's where you can check out the other judges as well. Perfect. Thanks again, Mitch, and we'll see you guys in normal BIS episodes, which will be primarily posted every Saturday, and that'll be the sort of bulk of the channel from now on, and a few other things like more, how-to videos, more mock slideshows, behind the build, all sorts of other stuff as well. And heck, if you have ideas for future themes, or not themes, future things you want to see on the channel, future content, hit me up, let me know. I'm happy to hear suggestions and possibly do them. All right, see you guys.